All week here on Outside Source, we've been covering extreme weather. Comparisons are being drawn between the heat wave of 2018 and the summer of 1976. Let's take a look. Here is the temperature map at that time in 76. This is the heat wave. It was in red, localized to parts of Europe, the United States and Russia. Now take a look at this year. Very different. It's all across the northern hemisphere where it's summer, very intense in some places. The heat's being blamed now for delays to cross-channel rail services between the UK and France. On its website, Eurotunnel says air conditioning problems meant some carriages are now out of action. The BBC has correspondents across the globe. We asked some of them to send in reports on the weather where they are. First, here's Rupert Wingfield-Hayes in Tokyo.
It has been a truly unprecedented month for weather here in Japan. It began with a week of record rainfall that caused devastating floods in the west of the country, and that has been followed by 2 weeks of extreme heat that again has broken all records. A new absolute high of 41.1 degrees was set on Monday, and the 1 week record has also been broken. And this has caused a really shocking loss of life. All up, the floods and the heat have now taken at least 300 lives.
Well, in South Korea, there have been deaths reported, with the President Moon Jae-in calling the heat wave a special disaster. Here's Laura Bicker.
The temperature has hovered around 37 degrees Celsius for several days. And it's not just the top temperature that's the problem, it's the lowest temperature. They've had the hottest night here in Seoul for 111 years since records began. And on that night, the temperature didn't dip much below 30 degrees Celsius. Over 1,000 people have been taken to hospital with heat-related problems, and it's thought at least 10 people have died in this global heat wave on the Korean peninsula.
And next to Sweden with Maddie Savage.
Stockholm's usually one of the most visibly green cities in Europe. About 40% of it's made up of parks, but a lot of it is now yellow and crispy after the hottest July since records began. Sweden simply isn't set up for high temperatures. The buildings are designed to insulate, keep people warm in the snowy winters. Very few offices have air conditioning. But it's the countryside that's been worst affected. The worst wildfires for decades are still being tackled by firefighters from around the EU after Sweden called for international assistance. And more hot weather's on the way in the coming week.
Wildfires are also engulfing parts of Yosemite National Park in the United States, and it is desperate times for farmers in Texas, where parts of the southern state are experiencing drought. Annalise Parks is in Dallas for us.
Here in North Texas, we have been dealing with a heat wave for almost 2 weeks now. We've had 10 days of 100 degrees, all the way up to 109. Numerous records have been broken. And in addition to that, conditions are extremely dry. Moderate to severe drought continues across the Dallas-Fort Worth region. But good news, some needed rainfall is in the forecast next week, as well as some cooler temperatures.